No, we're at 6:30. We're just going to wait for one final board member and then we'll get started. Appreciate everybody's patience.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, thank you. All right, so.
Were you guys waiting on me? I'm sorry.
All right. It's not easy to get here all the time. I am well aware. All right. So, I will start, actually closing out of that, with our call to order. In accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22 and House Bill 197 and 404, I hereby call to order the Board of Education of the Bexley City School District regular meeting for Tuesday, April 6, 2021. Mr. Smith, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Barno.
Here.
Ms. Minio.
Here.
Ms. Mitchell.
Here.
Ms. Powers.
Here.
Ms. Snowden.
Here, thank you. Can I start with the approval of minutes, please? Can I have a motion to approve our minutes?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. That motion carries. All right. May I also have a motion to approve our agenda for this evening's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Thank you. That motion carries. All right. So we're moving on to board updates, and I start with that. I just have a few things to note on the Superintendent Policy Committee. We're looking at some new policies that are coming down the pike from legislation. The OSBA has created a new way of sending some of the required policies to us through our board doc system. So Mary Davis is working extra hard to figure out how to get that all to us in a timely fashion. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great, much more streamlined approach. So look for that next month. We continue with our coffee and conversations. Other board members will have the opportunity to and our superintendent to do those this coming month, and there'll be signups for those soon. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the administration and all of our staff for the wonderful free summer school offerings. I've heard so many great things about it. When I look through it, I'm really impressed with everything that we're able to offer. I'm just thrilled about that. So that I want to say thank you for that. And finally, I'll just say as a little senior class update, I think I reported last time that we've got the prom set for May 8th, which is fantastic. We've got graduation practice on the 28th, parade, like last year, like a reverse parade that'll go down. This year we'll do Fair Avenue to Drexel at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. So I know the graduates are really looking forward to that. And then graduation on the 30th, Sunday morning, the 30th at 10 a.m. And the administration is giving a survey to the senior parents right now to see if we can get an idea of how many people want to come. And then we'll start, I think they'll start parsing out tickets after that. So I'm really, really pleased with the creative thinking and opportunities that we have this year to celebrate our seniors. So that's it for my report. Ms. Powers is next.
Thank you. Bexley Rec, the Rec Board met on March 3rd. There was extensive discussion of the Commonwealth Park landscaping project, which will include a playing field, so it's exciting. There was discussion about the plans for pool operations for the summer. In addition, Bexley Rec continues to update for summer programming. They have once again pivoted their childcare as a result of our moving to all-in. And so, again, I thank all of the Bexley Rec folks for continuing to respond to our needs as we continue to be able to do more for having children all in. They have transitioned now to the backpack again for care. The next meeting of Bexley Rec is tomorrow. Franklin County School Board Alliance. The last meeting of the School Board Alliance was mostly focused on the Ed Choice voucher program. I was not able to attend that meeting, but I've reviewed the materials that they provided, and the next meeting of that group is this Saturday. I'm going to give a quick update on our superintendent search. Towards the end of the month, the board will have the opportunity to consult with Ray and Associates, our search firm, as they continue to work to bring us candidates that will fit our identified priorities for our superintendent. Finalists will be invited to be interviewed in early May. As part of the interview process, we're planning forums for stakeholder groups, including a community forum where all community members will be able to watch the candidates who will be, separately interviewed, assuming, we have a number of them and we expect to. They will be able to watch each of the final candidates respond to questions. We are planning to live stream or record it so that community, everyone has the opportunity to watch. The board will invite community participation both in suggesting questions to ask the final candidates as well as in providing feedback regarding the candidates. I'll be working with Ray and Associates on setting up a portal for submission of questions that will be collected and reviewed by our search firm. In addition to the community forums, there will be separate interview sessions for administrators, teachers and staff, students, PTO, booster groups, and similar other partners. I want to add a note of appreciation for the work that Ray and Associates is doing, and note that they have been fielding questions not only from me, but also from our community. They've been super responsive and have made themselves available to talk with community members who have questions. They're working very hard for us. We will continue to provide updates at the bexleyschools.org website under the Board of Education tab, and underneath that the Superintendent Search tab. So look for further updates there. And I want to add one final comment tonight. This past summer, our board issued a statement acknowledging the voices and expectations of our community in response to events calling on us to confront racism, not only through conversation, but also through definitive action. We recognized our critical role in shaping and cultivating an educational experience that ensures that each student, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, religion, and sexual orientation, feels valued, supported, and free. Recent events, again, have brought clarity and reminders of the critical importance of ongoing work to confront racism. I want to state my support for and solidarity with students, faculty, staff, and community members who experience racism or other injustice, including people who identify as Asian American Pacific Islander, and reiterate my commitment to continuing the work to confront and combat racism in our country. Thank you, Marley.
Thank you. Mr. Burnham.
Thank you. I just have a couple of brief updates. Technology, Mr. Pettit and I are actually meeting tomorrow morning. So next board meeting, I will have an update. Or not tomorrow morning, Thursday morning. Didn't want to scare you, Brad. Thursday morning, we will be meeting. In regard to athletic board, as I stated before, we have not had any athletic board meetings, but just in the vein of athletics, I've been to a couple of track meets already. It's great to be at an athletic event again and be outside, especially, and little chilly sometimes, but I'll take it. But all the sports are rolling along and outside, and it's good to see softball team out, lacrosse team is out, track and everyone else. So I can appreciate that more than words can say, and hopefully a lot of other people are. As you mentioned, Ms. Snowden, the coffee and conversations, Ms. Mitchell and I will be participating in we have one on Thursday at 5 p.m. that Ms. Mitchell and I will be participating in with Dr. Good. So we will be available for that. I'm not sure of the sign-up process, but that will be taking place this Thursday. Lastly, we've had some negotiations with the teachers union with our contract, without going into any specifics because I can't. We did meet yesterday. We've met a couple of times before that, and with that said, I can't really get into any details, but we have been meeting and trying to work out details of hopefully a new agreement fairly soon. So with that said, I don't have anything else.
Thank you. Ms. Minio.
Hello, everyone. So just a super quick brief update as far as legislation, what's going on. I feel like the big push right now the big conversation right now is about House Bill 200 and Senate Bill 145. And they are both looking at the report card and how the overall goal is to simplify it to make it a more beneficial tool for families at schools, communities to understand what's going on. So that's what's going on with that. And just a quick appreciation, I think, for
I know. I like the Twitter, maybe. Mulch is here.
Mulch is here. Yeah, it should have been that. It probably should have been with Mr. Barno and the athletic board. That's funny. Just a big shout out to everyone. I can only speak for the students who live at my home, but the last 2 weeks, starting our third week, have been really super high energy, high excitement, high success. So in gratitude to everyone who has contributed to make that a reality for our students. And that's it.
Thank you so much. So important.
Sorry about that. I thought I opened a new tab. My bad.
That's quite all right. All these Zoom excitements, right? So I do not see Ms. George on our call. Sarah, are you here? We'll check in with her. I'm sure she'll have a report to us soon, and she can email us something if or if she comes in later, we'll listen to her report later. So we'll move on then to the superintendent's report.
Did we miss Miss Mitchell?
Yeah,
Oh, I did. I skipped right over you. Sorry about that.
it's okay.
I was so fishing around for Sarah that I forgot you.
That's okay.
Ms. Mitchell. Well,
Just a real quick, BEF is gearing up to celebrate Together in Gratitude event on April 21st. They just finished collection of videos and I submitted a video on behalf of the Board of Education, greasy face and all, so you're welcome. For our teachers and staff. So we're looking forward to that event at 7 p.m. They are looking for any donations or connections for, hold on so that I word this correctly, sponsorships for staff gift bags. So if you have any connections where that would be useful, that would be wonderful. Just send me an email. March 12th, I was not able to attend the conversation with Ijoma Ulohu. I always mess up her last name and I'm terribly sorry about that. Conversation, the author of So You Want to Talk About Race. As you know, the district has been engaged in that book study for the last semester, this whole semester recently. I was really bummed about that. It's the one time I could not get out of my work commitments because this particular book reads like a personal memoir at times for me. But I heard that it was a really, really fruitful conversation and wonderful event, and BEF was part of making that happen. So we thank them. And then the Bexley Minority Parent Alliance is having their annual event on April 11th. I don't want to tell you wrong. It might be the 12th. I lose track of the dates because of basketball. So if you guys are able to attend that, that'd be wonderful. It's a Zoom event where they'll be recognizing our students and our seniors. And that event has obviously had to change because of COVID, but as always, a really uplifting and inspiring opportunity for us to showcase and celebrate our students in our district. And I do not have any report on facilities, so that's all I have. And now, Dr. Good, take it away.
Thank you very much. Dr. Good.
Good evening and happy spring to everyone. Tonight, I'm pleased to share the superintendent's report section with some of our district leaders that have championed the safe learning environment. We'll begin with Dr. Harley Williams, who will speak about COVID, the trends in our positive cases and quarantines, what the latest on how Department of Health guidance is relative to attending school or gatherings at events, and then an update on our mitigation strategies. And then we'll hear from Sam McMasters, who will share the biannual bullying report as required by statute. And while it's difficult to note trends, given the interruption to in-person learning over the past year and because of differences in how incidents are reported, we're pleased that a plan is in place to utilize our new tools to gather data and work toward what we call inter-rater reliability so that we can make more valid inferences about trends in bullying, harassment, and intimidation in the future. And then finally, we'll learn from our Chief Academic Officer, Jill Abraham, how the district is responding to learning loss and other effects of the pandemic. The governor has issued both opportunities and resources to schools, and we're excited to share some of what's in store here now and in the future to ensure any gaps in cognition and concerns with emotional well-being are being addressed appropriately and in a sustained fashion. So we'll begin with Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams?
Thank you, Dr. Good. Thank you, Board of Education members. Thanks for
Dr.
the
Williams, give me one moment, sorry to interrupt, so I can go get your PowerPoint from my files.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to share how we're doing so far since spring break. You know, there are a lot of questions and a lot of work. As Tyler's putting that together, I'll summarize how things are going since we came back from spring break with the all-in is very well. I couldn't be happier with the information I'm about to share with you. And again, it's through the efforts of a lot of people. I mean, I could go on and take most of the time thanking individuals for this, but so I have put together just a few slides and then I'd be available for questions after that to kind of, I guess, demonstrate why I feel things are going so well. So Tyler, if you would move to the first slide, here's some numbers for you. And it doesn't go back. So far, we've had a total of 6 students that have tested positive since we came back from spring break. I believe one student might have been positive right at the end of spring break on the first day back of school. But the numbers remain low. The kids are doing a great job with their masking and their distancing. They're students, and so they're not perfect, and we keep reminding them. But I am so impressed when I walk in the cafeteria and I see the little ones pull their mask up while they're eating if they want to ask for something. It's just been remarkable. But the numbers have been extremely well. We've had, if you take a look at that last 10 days column, you'll see the high school had a total of 34 quarantines though, and that was mainly to we had an athletic team member who tested positive, but impacted about 7 students. And then the next day we had 2 or 3 other students with high fevers, and we shut down the team. And I'll talk about that here in a little bit, but we shut down the team for a few days just to make sure that variant hadn't found its way into our school. And I'm happy to report that last night the students who we were concerned about both tested negative and allowed us to use our rapid test kits to everyone else who's been possibly exposed. And we brought back students back to school today. So that number is inflated, but it really didn't end up being a quarantine. But we didn't have another way to categorize this. More like we just kind of shut down the team for a few days to make sure that things weren't going the wrong direction. And happy to report they did not. You can go to the next chart. This is incredible. Since our vaccines, we have goose eggs all the way up and down as far as staff that's been in quarantine or had positive cases among our staff since spring break. If you go to the next slide. And these rapid test kits that we have, we're using them, and we're still encouraging families to request them from a school nurse if they'd like to have a test. It's about 15 minutes. There's some technology involved. As I mentioned yesterday, we use these to, after we had learned that the students that we were concerned about possibly having COVID tested negative, then we use these just to ensure that our team, one of our teams could get back to school and things like that. So that worked out very well. You can request a test. Basically, the tests are for symptomatic people or asymptomatic people if there's a potential exposure, is how we're using them. But they're replenishable. If you would like one at home, if you're watching this, just contact the school nurse if you have questions. Anytime someone is sent home for symptoms, we send home test kits for the entire family, things like that. Masking, the masks did arrive on time, as I'm sure many of you know, and they got distributed. And we've had a few issues with the masks that we've had to replace a couple that might have been washed and the seams might have came out, but I think that's been 2 or 3 people that have contacted me to have asked for a replacement mask. So overall, extremely happy with the way the masks are going. The staff have made many compliments about the ease of which to wear the mask and to teach in the masks. And there were about 200 students that had alternative masks approved to wear as well between this board meeting and the last board meeting. Next slide, please. Lunch, we're eating outside. We've had great weather. We've had a couple of days where it was iffy, but we are developing our plan. I think the best way to say that our lunch plan is that we over-prepared, and we thought it'd be easier to back down with some plans, and that's what we've done. We've found that the Bexley Picnic is alive and well outside. Students like to eat outside. Elementary schools eating on their yoga mats and blankets and towels in front of this building here. They have each school kind of has their own plan that works for them, but instead of going to what the details of the plan, I'll let you know that we're eating outside as often as we can, and we're following 6 feet of distancing when kids are unmasked and eating. But the lunch thing was a worry for me and how that was going to work out. And I'm happy to say that through everyone's efforts, that's going remarkably well. I'm happy to report that it is going so well. Also, Nate, I wanted to update, we were notified last week, asked if we, by Nationwide Children's Hospital, if we wanted to administer the Pfizer vaccine to our 16-year-old students or older. We've accepted that offer. That'll begin on Tuesday. The second dose will be offered on May 4th. To be eligible, you have to be 16 years old on April 13th. You have to also have parent permission, form that needs to be completed and returned. We have 400 vaccines that have been allotted to us. We have 466 students who will be 16 years old on April 13th. Some of our students have discovered have already received some of their vaccines already. I contacted CSG today to see if they'd be interested. I haven't heard back because we'll probably have some extra vaccines, and Nationwide suggested I contact the local school to see if somebody else could use them so they don't go to waste. And so we'll give them an exact number. I know as of today, which is pretty good, being a former high school principal, getting forms turned in from 16-year-olds is a good, I mean, it was sometimes a challenge, but we've had 60 students so far turn their forms in one day. And we'll give Nationwide a final count on Friday. And then we met with their representatives today to make sure how things would be set up. So we're excited to host that here. And then next slide, quarantine. Since we last met, they changed the guidance to schools to 3 feet, which then basically took away the modified quarantine. We no longer have that. So the questions we now ask is if the students were within a minimum of 3 feet or less than 3 feet of distancing when we're doing our contact tracing. Teachers have done a great job of uploading all their seating charts. So on the rare occasions when most of those 6 cases that we've had, to be honest with you, I would say only one, they were in quarantine before they contracted the virus. So we haven't had to do a lot of contact tracing, but it's nice to go into our shared documents and see teachers that have uploaded all their seating charts. We had a case today and I stopped by and did contact tracing today before I came into work. And that's working well so far. And again, that's not just the school community, but I'm talking parents and everyone else they're just doing a fantastic job. And it's much appreciated because we're seeing the results of that attention to detail and that kind of support. And just a reminder, I'm only as good as the data that gets reported to me. And so I just encourage and continue to encourage parents when they have been exposed or a positive case to fill out the confidential reporting form on our website so that we can continue to contact trace and keep track of students to help ensure the safety of everyone here in our school district. Next slide. Mrs. Snowden did a great job explaining everything that happens with our prom and our outdoor graduation plan. And so I don't really need to share any more about that. I can answer questions, but I would say the theater and the athletic program, as Mr. Barno announced too, music concerts, they're occurring, and we're meeting with teachers and coaches and advisors to talk about mitigation strategies, making sure we're following the new health orders and are 25% inside the building and things like that. So it is as close to normal as we've been in a year. And I'm happy to say that. It's just nice to hear noise in the hallways again and kids laughing and moving away from classes. So it's a good time to be be an educator. I think that's it, right, Tyler? Or do I have
Yeah, that's it.
Dr. Williams, would it help if our kids do have the vaccine to just send you a note so you can cross that off as one that you don't reserve, or you're just going to work off of the ones you get?
I'm just going to work off the ones I get. We're not tracking or keeping track. We will hold the vaccine cards for those that get their vaccines done here. We'll hold them, and so they don't lose them in between administration. People have asked whether or not they can come just for their second vaccine. We asked that question today of the nationwide reps, and they said no. You have to get your first and second dose through this program. There's no makeups. This is a one-time event. Once it's gone, you'll have to use other private entities or doctor offices or other clinics to get your vaccine. But I did ask you, Alicia, if I could get Brian's cell phone number, because I would like to have an EMS squad in our parking lot that day just for precautionary purposes.
Oh, yeah. He can give you the number that you would call to schedule it. I'm pretty sure the process is pretty easy. I'll let him know.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Dr. Good?
Thank you. So there are no more questions for Dr. Williams. Thanks again, Harley. Great job. Sam McMasters is going to go ahead and speak about our bullying report. Sam?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I know in the past, Layson Smith has presented the bullying information, and I did work with her prior to her departure on the report for the fall semester. So the information in this report is compiled for incidents that were reported from the months of June through December of 2020. And just one thing to remember as we look at this information, that this was a time when we were in hybrid or full remote. So that could impact, and we certainly cannot determine causality here in our numbers, but I think it's important just to remember that that could influence the reporting here. It's also important just to think about as a reminder that when an incident is reported to an administrator and is investigated, if it is found unsubstantiated, that does not mean that the incident did not occur. I think what we want to remember is that when administrators make those determinations, it is only about whether or not it rises to the level of bullying, harassment, or intimidation under the bullying policy. So if it's unsubstantiated, it certainly does not mean that things were reported that didn't happen. It just means that they were unsubstantiated under that policy. So for the purpose of this report, I also just think it's important to note that building principals evaluate these or investigate these reports as they come in. We continue every year, twice a year, we work with our administrators to review our reporting policies and our investigation procedures so that we're compiling the most useful data possible. And I think that's what Dr. Good referred to when he started out this evening, was just, we want to make sense out of the data, and we also want to make it productive for us so that we can make decisions. One challenge that we do face is how incidences are reported. And a challenge, so for an example, would just be, I think we had an incident this fall that was reported where a student just wanted someone to know that someone was seen with a mask that was not being worn properly. So that may not have fallen under bullying, harassment, and intimidation, but it was a way for a student to report something. So we are always looking at ways that students and faculty have a way to report things that maybe are not bullying, harassment, intimidation. And so as we move forward, it is just, what are those mechanisms to report other situations or situations of racism that someone may observe in the district that they want to have reported. So that may not fall under this policy, but we want to make sure that they have some way to do that. So just that we will continue to review the data in a way that just ensures accurate reporting, and then continue to look for and determine trends and address that ongoing systematic continuous improvement for the district. If you have any questions, I will certainly attempt to answer them.
Ms. McMasters, I just want to clarify the 3 columns, reported, substantiated, unsubstantiated, really reflects just what the state requires we track, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but all the other nuances, the gray area, we're keeping track of.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
So let me just follow up on that. It may be that what Alicia just asked and you just provided information on, Sam, is what my question is too. And let me just start by saying I appreciate your noting that just because something is unsubstantiated doesn't mean something didn't occur. It just means it doesn't meet the definition in the policy. But as to those other things that aren't substantiated as bullying, and maybe as to some other things, so is it the case that we have ways of keeping track of all those other issues in a different kind of a place where students or people who appropriately could make a report can report that other behavior that they view as a problem, and then we address it in a different way?
Yeah, and I think that's where, and I think Dr. Good referred to this as well, is just how those determinations are made. And so, we continue to analyze and look at that when, a student may report something to a building principal or to a teacher that doesn't fall under that bullying, harassment, intimidation. And so it's handled either as a discipline issue or it's handled as some other type of situation that the building administration may be handling that doesn't fall into one of these categories. So that does happen on occasion. Anything that rises to that level or if it's reported in our online reporting system, we do track it on this document. So there may be a situation at the middle school in one of those 3 that maybe wasn't bullying, harassment, intimidation, but we tracked it as a reported incident because the way the statute requires us to report the number of reported incidences. So if someone reports it as bullying, harassment, intimidation, we have to count it.
I got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have a question, but I am going to just throw in for the other board members, just an FYI. I reported something on the website. I don't remember if it was in 2020 or 2021. But I have to say, like, I was like, so it was really an interesting experience to go through it from like the other side of it, as opposed to hearing the report, going through the process. And I was very impressed with the principal response and the way the whole, it was, I have to say that, like, I hated to have to do it, or I hated to be in a situation where I felt like I needed to report something, but I actually, looking at it from the other side, was impressed by the way the process worked.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate the report. Finally, we'll hear from our Chief Academic Officer, Jill Abraham, about how the district's responding to the learning loss.
Hey, well, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to talk a little bit more about summer school this evening, as it was referenced in some of the board reports. And as we're hearing from community members who are getting their kids signed up, we began with that summer school plan really back in February, when the governor asked districts to consider putting together an extended learning plan that would address the observed needs of their students as a result of the pandemic. And so we felt really good at that time, because we have been watching our students intently and studying data all throughout the year, and feel like we've been really having a good pulse on what our students needed. And so with that charge in February, we began to look ahead to summer and really assess where we were at that point. A frequent conversation I've had with the principals, and we talk about it every month. We start every meeting with our principal council to talk about gap closing. What are you doing? What are you noticing? How are you responding? What's changing? What's working? What do we need to do differently? And so when we got to February, we took a really close look, because at that point we had winter data, and we had some really great findings. We found that while many times when you listen and you hear people concerned about loss of learning or gaps, we found that our students were doing really, really well. And in many ways were in similar places where they would be in a typical year, or were closing the gap that we had noticed in the fall. And so with that, we planned for summer. The one area that stood out to us tremendously was the fact that, quite simply, our Bexley kids needed to be with their peers, and they needed a really good dose of joy. And so with that, we proceeded with our planning for summer school. And we utilized the leadership of Toby Fisher, who's serving as our summer school principal, and asked him to help reach out to some folks to see who might be willing to design a passion project, or something that was content related or intervention related, or summer camp like that might bring our Bexley students to school. Honestly, we weren't sure how many teachers would have the energy to re-engage in summer after a really long year. And they rose to the occasion, as they always do, and offered some really great experiences for our kids. And so if you've had a chance to look at the course catalog, you'll see that there are 63 opportunities for our Bexley students, even our entering kindergarten students, to become acclimated with their peers in each of our 3 schools. I asked Toby today just what were our numbers looking like. We have 513 course registrations, so 513 courses that have been registered from 250 unique students. 7 of our classes are already full and have a wait list, and that registration will remain open until May 3rd.
That's awesome.
A couple of things that I do want to point out in terms of the intentionality of what we offered. From our kids, we know, we've seen, we've observed, we've done a lot of surveys to know that they want time together. They don't want to do online summer school. That's not their first choice. They don't want to Zoom in. They want to be together. That's the reason we've developed the sessions as we have. We also heard from parents, even through some of our development of our hybrid 2.0, that we needed to be really thoughtful about that transition to high school. And that was a difficult way for our students to start high school this year. And so knowing that our 8th graders had an exceptional year, what could we do intentionally to better support their transition up to the next level? So there's something very specific for our 9th grade students. There are sessions, as I mentioned earlier, that were designed to bring in incoming kindergarten students. And there are also sessions that are targeted to support early literacy and numeracy for our K through 3 students. So I think if you've had a chance, there's so many great things in there. And I'm super excited for what that will offer. I also want to point out that when the governor asked us to create these plans, not only did he ask us to figure out what the needs were, who were the students that were most at risk or in need of additional support, he provided us with a great budget that allows us to not only offer this experience for free to Bexley students, but in working with Mr. Smith, we believe we'll be able to offer this experience not only this summer, but next summer as well. And so again, when we think about the extension, we're excited about what this long-term plan can be for our students. We also are working in partnership with Otterbein, and I hope that Dr. Allison McGrath might be on the meeting tonight. I'm not sure if she has. I didn't check to see who was participating, but several months ago when I talked about thinking of summer school, she was on the board meeting that evening. And as a Bexley parent, and she's also on the faculty at Otterbein, she reached out to me the very next day and she said, I heard you're thinking about college students. I think I can help. And so we had Otterbein students who have their education majors who are part of our instructors for our summer school. So that partnership has been of great value to us in being able to offer such a great course registration for our families. So as we move through summer, our goal is nothing but joy and to provide kids with the support, especially our high school kids. We've still got the typical credit recovery and some of the college writing course, some of those things that we typically would offer. But our goal is to get everybody set up as they return to school in August so that our spirits are a little bit lighter and we've had the opportunity to stay engaged. And then again, we'll go back to our typical practices of assessing our kids, creating thoughtful goals in response to what we see to individual students, and then planning, great instruction to support our kids. So if you want to see the plan in its entirety, you can find it on the district website. It's actually under the staff and student learning section, and it's a link. Or if you go to the ODE site, ODE has a collection of all the districts who submitted plans, and you will find our plan there. Questions you might have?
Ms. Abraham, I am so excited. It was the first time when I reviewed everything that I thought, man, I want to go to summer school.
Well, there were a few things I was interested in as well.
Yeah, and my kids were like, "Oh no," they took off out of the room. But I'm like, yeah, no, I think this might. They were thinking the traditional style. So, fantastic job, thank you, and what a great score with Otterbein students. It's awesome.
Yeah, I did have an opportunity to review the plan, and I circled the language that working on issues that promote joy and peer interaction. I thought that was a really lovely way to think about what, in addition to the educational support, what our students are looking forward to this summer, and the courses, the variety of courses that give so many different options for our students that are going to be fun. Some of them, academically supportive, some of them just pure fun. I'm really grateful for all the work, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Abraham?
I just wanted to add how awesome it was, and who would have thought that kids were so excited to do summer school, right?
That's a good thing.
I know 513 just sounds like amazing.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Dr. Good, do you have anything else for us?
I do. Well, first of all, I want to thank Harley, Sam, and Jill, and kind of reinforce we have success because we're using data to drive our decision making. And so the emotional and mental health well-being of our students is a priority. It's one of the board's priorities as well. And the data bears out that we need to focus there. And so I'm really pleased that we're doing that. I think the bullying, harassment, intimidation report also reflects we're doing a good job of intervening and using those positive behavior intervention supports for children to really consider the choices they're making and make better choices that are very pro-social. And then, of course, as Harley indicated, I'm so proud of our community, both the school community and the greater community, that they continue to observe those different mitigation strategies, and we have minimal incidents of positive COVID rates and quarantines. And so again, using data really helps us make strides forward. And I appreciate our district's leadership team in ensuring that. So there are a couple of items on tonight's consent agenda that I'd like to highlight. First of all, and reflecting on Jill's presentation, there is a position description for summer school teachers that I'm asking the board to approve. There's also a position description for a diversity, equity, and inclusion leader. This position description is the culmination of input from many community members, students, K-12 and even higher education, faculty and staff, and then also interested others. And this leader will continue the equity-oriented work that's outlined in the board's strategic plan, work that was led primarily by Lisanne Smith previously. So the diversity, equity, and inclusion leader and the leader of experiential learning and community engagements roles align to the Board of Education's anti-racism and communications priorities. So these two professionals will serve on the district's leadership team, and they'll do a number of things. They will develop, monitor, and evaluate. They will collaborate, coach, and consult. They will advocate, they will model and network, and they will advise and support and report. They'll do all these things in the context of the board's policies, the district's programs, and our personnel. So those two together are really going to inform our efforts and move forward the board's work towards the goals they've set in their strategic plan. So I'm asking the board to consider approval of those position descriptions. The building handbooks are also on the agenda this evening. They're there for a first reading. And we also have 5 items from the business office, one that includes roof maintenance, HVAC software upgrades, firewall services, and finally the disposal of a lone piano at Montrose Elementary School. So John Eikenberry is joining us when the board gets to those items. He's happy to respond to any questions the board may raise relative to those business expenditure requests. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Dr. Good, were you able to ascertain on the handbooks, and I don't know, at the high school handbook about the calendar? I know that
Mary Davis had researched that, and the board had adopted a calendar early on and then made a revision to that calendar. Mm-hmm. And because we're awaiting potential implications to the calendar from negotiations, mm-hmm. We'll reflect the currently adopted calendar, but it's subject to change. So it will be watermarked draft until we conclude the bargaining process. So for example, if through that bargaining process, there were additional days added to the calendar or additional release days on the calendar, we wanted to reflect that in the final versions of the handbook. So before we issue those, we'll certainly make certain the most recent board adopted calendar is there.
And thank you. And right, because this is just the draft for tonight, but is the most recently approved calendar has our start day on what? On August 11th or August 17th?
I don't have it in front of me. It is on the website. The one on the website is the most currently adopted.
Perfect. Thank you. That's what I was looking at. Okay, good.
And that's the board adopted. Parents generally want us to begin on July 4th. They've about had it by then, so.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And I understand that there are a few more things floating around, and hopefully that'll be resolved by next month when we seek to approve those handbooks. So-
And just to add on to that, as Dr. Good pointed out, there are, when we talk about the calendar and teacher days and professional development days, that all has to kind of gel together. So, I think we usually try to approve the calendars a year in advance just to give an idea. But usually, especially in a negotiation year, we have to, depending on length of school day and all the other things that go with that calendar and professional development, especially, and to fit into our strategic plan of how that would work with professional development and our teachers and everything else. I think that has to be fluid until that bargaining process is completed and we have an agreement. So I just wanted to add a little bit more kind of context to it as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Any other questions from board members?
I don't have a question. I just want to appreciate the opportunity that we had to provide input on the drafts for the positions. I'm excited that these positions are out there, and in particular, I'm referring to the DEI leadership role, and I'm glad that we had an opportunity to provide input, and I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, then can I have a motion, please, to approve items 3B through J?
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
Thank you. All right, any questions about any of these items? All right, then because these involve personnel, we'll need a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Barno,
Yes.
Ms. Minio,
Yes.
Ms. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Snowden.
Yes, thank you. All right, so moving on for tonight's agenda, treasurer's comments. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. So reviewing the monthly financials, this month, the month of March, we received our final settlement of property taxes for the first half collection of 2021. And so as a review, property taxes are collected on a calendar year basis from the county. So our fiscal year straddles that. So there's a few things to point out in that $522,000 variance, that very top line, general property taxes. So question is, why is that different than how we forecasted? I can account for about $241,000 of that variance. And those include new construction. As if you put on your levy hat from a year and a half ago, new construction is new money. So that's why we've received some. And in the forecast in November, we forecasted an increase in property values based on the triennial update from the county. We were conservative on that increase. So the increase was about $24 million on our total valuation of the district. But again, if you recall, House Bill 920 essentially says we don't receive any new taxes. Or receive any more revenue based on valuation increases, with the exception of inside millage. So there is some inside millage gain within that $241,000 that I was able to account for. The other thing is Board of Revision adjustments. So we take in some, based on history, of adjustments on mainly commercial property. And also residential. So when individuals want to dispute their valuation on their homes, or if there's a sale on a property, or something's torn down, and then the tax bill's changed, those usually go through the Board of Revisions. This particular year, we saw some unusual numbers, I guess. Along the same lines as new construction. To go back on there, like normally we see about $1 million of new construction in residential property every year. This year we saw 3.7 million. So a pretty significant increase in new construction. But along those same lines of Board of Revisions, they were more favorable to us than what we've seen in the past. And then finally, we saw an increase in our tax incremental financing, which is essentially parcels or properties where a portion of their tax or the tax directed towards the schools or other entities is directed to the municipality to pay off the improvements. So think about the Main Street area. There's been some infrastructure improvements in properties, and the city has taken on some infrastructure expenses to support those. So they get some taxes in that way, and then it comes to us via TIF. So it's not traditional, I should say, but we saw an increase in there. So that leaves almost just shy of about $300,000 of variance that I need to account for or figure out. The best I can come up with that variance is timing, which is something I say a lot, but it's true. So normally, like going back to what I very first said, that the taxes are collected on a calendar year basis. So people can pay their whole bill in January or February, or they can pay half and half. And some years it's more, but so looking at the data, between 2015 and 2018, that split, so that split was about 59-41 in the first half, meaning we received about 59% of our annual amount in the calendar year in that first half, and the other 41% in August. In 2019 and 2020, that changed, that percentage split changed. Again, going from 59-41 to 53-47. At the time, we attributed that to the IRS tax changes in 2018 because of how much you could deduct for your taxes. And we saw a bunch of people kind of shift how they paid some taxes. So if that we went from 59 to 53 over a 2-year period. I won't know what that percentage split is until August or September of this year. So I can come back to you and say it was a split percentage or timing difference, or if not, I'll need to figure out something else. Usually it could be delinquencies, but we don't have high delinquencies here. But if it just went from 53 to 55%, that would account for that roughly $300,000 in difference, which is still under what our normal rate was. That might be a little complicated to get, but my assumption right now is it's a timing of, or we're going back to what we normally saw from 2015 to 2018 on the payment of taxes being more upfront in January than more of an even split over the year. The rest of the monthly financials, pretty much the same song and dance I've been saying for the last couple of months. On the expenditures, what you're seeing there is pretty much trend and nothing too significant to note there. April is our income tax payment month. Not a large payment, but we'll monitor that, and I'll have a report for you in May. And in addition, that'll update our 5-year forecast as well, coming in May. Any questions on financials before I move on? Okay, thanks. One other item on the agenda to note is the amended appropriations. As you know, this is what we come, or I come with you a couple times a year when there's a significant change. The change that I'd highlight this time is, Tyler, if you'll scroll down to probably page 2 or 3, right there, it's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So what I'll highlight here is on the left-hand side, you'll see fund numbers 001, 002. Those are fund numbers. If you look down to 507 and 510, the Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund and the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Those two are both directly tied to COVID response, federal stimulus dollars. You'll see us call them CARES Act dollars or ESSER dollars, which is the 507. So you can see significant dollars there. the 507, and there's different acts that are kind of lumped in together in 507. And there's been 3 different rounds of stimulus for us. So their auditors have classified those as 507. But to give you an idea of what we're spending those dollars on right now, technology very early on, PPE very early on, remote learning, summer school, as Ms. Abraham mentioned, and we're trying really hard to save some funds for next year summer school, so we can offer another robust summer school. And what's great about the last round of ESSER funds or relief funds is we can go until 2023. So if there's even more funds, we might be able to do a 3rd summer school, depending on the needs that we see. Obviously, we won't return anything. We'll spend every dime.
Mr. Smith, you mean 2023 in terms of how long we have to spend those dollars?
Yes.
So if we went all the way into a 3rd year of summer school, that would be in 2023, right?
Yeah, the summer of 2023.
So we have to spend by the 31st December that year?
We would have to spend by September 30th.
Oh, the
of
fiscal
2023.
year.
Sorry. Yeah, the federal government has a different spending calendar than we do, than states, but their requirement is September 30th. Sorry, that's a good question. So we would have summer school paid out by September of 2023.
Yeah, no dollars left behind. Spend it all.
Correct. Yeah. And we may not have enough funds by summer 2023. That would be, I think that would be, there's good and bad to not having any left. But we're evaluating our budgets for next year this month and identifying areas that would be allowable under these grants, primarily due to learning loss or social and emotional improvements for our students. We don't want to, we want to address the needs right now and not really hold back funds for
Right.
something in 3 years, 2 or 3
Yeah, I'd
years.
agree with that.
Yeah. So as we identify needs, and if we can appropriately fund them through these grants, we'll do that first, like we do everything else every year. If there's other grants or dollars that we can use first and save general fund, we do that normally. But these amounts are larger than what we normally see out of grants. So any 500 fund are federal funds there. The other grant that I believe you're aware of is a Diversifying Education grant. That's new, and that is a state fund or federal fund in the 590 of 140,000. That's a combination of 2 grants. That grant is $70,000 of that 140, but I thought I'd highlight that that's a change from the last appropriation measure. We have spent I'm sorry, I didn't add all this up. We've spent about $350,000 of our grant monies as of right now. Summer school will be one of the larger expenditures. Remote learning was, as of to date, the largest expense, a singular expense. And we, like I said, we'll still be evaluating come for next year. Finally, I'd like to just take a moment to appreciate Joan Roberts. In the exempt section of the agenda, you saw her resignation / retirement. She's been with the district since 2007. When she came on, she started in payroll, which is, if you talk to any treasurer, the one thing you don't mess with is payroll. So it's incredibly difficult to find individuals in these positions now in schools. It is a cutthroat thing when you lose someone in the treasurer's department, especially in payroll. But we were fortunate enough to transition Joan in 2017 to the assistant to the treasurer role and find another outstanding payroll person. But you don't understand how much of a relief I have knowing I have a payroll person and then a backup payroll person in Joan. Especially my first couple of years here, it's been great. So we will look to fill that position. It's sad to see Joan go, but she's going to focus on her family, which she loves dearly, and I admire her love and dedication to her kids, granddaughter, and even mother. So just wanted to wish her well and thank her publicly. And she already said that she would help with the transition, and she won't be too far away if I'm in a pickle. So she is a tremendous employee. We will miss her. It's, as you know, it's a tight-knit family up in our hallway, and she is just great. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, we will certainly be sorry to see her go. All right. I think I'll take a motion to approve this, and then we can have questions if we want to. So can I have a motion to approve items 4B through H?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, any questions?
Ms. Snowden, I just had a couple of questions for Mr. Eikenberry on the HVAC software, John. Can you refresh my memory? When was the last time we did a software conversion?
So this conversion is a physical conversion. The request is for the equipment to the space. So at the beginning of 20, we would have done an upgrade to the operating system software.
And so this is physical, not software, or this is this?
It is physical, yes. It's the
Okay.
software package that controls the climate in your spaces.
Okay.
So
it was scheduled for 2020, but didn't happen.
No, we've done ongoing physical conversions, so modules, wiring, cabling. I guess the operating system software, the different, I think we're on 3.6 right now. So in terms of your question regarding operating ongoing software upgrades, that was done in 20, yes.
And this includes, this software upgrade includes any additional software upgrades that might come with the system. Like if they say, hey, we released a new version or something, we get it automatically? Or do we have, is that an additional expense?
It is an additional expense. This request is for the ongoing of converting spaces to this operating system, if you will, this operating
To move it
package.
over. I understand. I don't think that was clear when I was reading it. So thank you for clarifying that for me.
Sure.
And then I have only one other question about the roof.
Certainly.
I know we had talked about back when we thought we were going to have a facilities group or frequently meeting, but I know we talked about a master planning schedule. And this roof maintenance, is this just a tear off or is this an overlay? And is this just for a part that's scheduled, like a newer part of the build or older part of the building? Like, I don't know, when you say roof, it's a section, and I'm guessing we do sections based on when we built the buildings.
That is correct. So two parts to that. This is actually just a repair. The section 11 was the tear off was done in 15. This area of roof is under the cooling tower. So it's a what I would call a high drama area in terms of vibration, no sunlight. So this is a repair to put a cricket in to help keep water away from this area. It's within the bounds of the warranty, so the warranty stays on it.
Okay,
yeah,
that's huge.
In terms of the capital planning, from the previous Friday report, I'm glad to report that we had a Perfection Group Energy Solutions Division visit over spring break to begin to kick off the tour assessment and analyzation part of the project. Certainly more tours and visits will come forth, but the planning, the capital replacement planning project is underway. So I'm happy to announce that. And that was in the 26th, the most recent Friday report.
So I use energy solutions in several of my buildings, John. So they're really, really good. They'll help identify some opportunities for you. And so this the full tear off we did in 2015, but the repairs that we're making still fall under the bounds of warranty?
It keeps the warranty in place. The reason there is a charge associated with this cricket is I continue to search for highly competent roofing contractors.
Good luck.
Yeah. So I said thank you, no, and I'm asking for approval to contract with Finney to do this repair in this high drama area.
Very good choice. I've worked with them a lot on a lot of my buildings, and they actually did the roof for me at Veterans Memorial. So very, very good choice.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions in this section? All right, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving items 4B through H, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, so we are moving on to the public participation section of our agenda tonight. Mr. Trill, I believe that we have one person signed up for public participation.
Yes, it's Mr. Airsome.
Okay, great. So let me just start that off. So although under state law, the Board of Education is not required to offer public comment during our regular board meetings, we do welcome the opportunity to hear from our community members. As such, we encourage your participation within certain parameters. Prior to the start of the meeting, so we ask you to, well, previously we would have asked you to sign in, but now I know you've signed in advance with Mr. Trill, which I appreciate very much. If you could start by stating your name and address for our record, that will help us. You could also please limit your comments to 5 minutes per our board policy. Finally, we note the public comment is just that. It's the public's opportunity to be heard. It is not a question and answer session with the board. We look forward to hearing your comments, but per our board policy, we will not respond to public comment in the meeting or as individual board members. You can be assured, however, that we are actively listening and taking notes for future reference and review. That being said, Mr. Trill, if you could start our public comment.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, Gerald Ursham, thank you so much. I had no idea that this was a privilege to be done at the meeting, so I do appreciate that Bexley does offer that. Thank you so much. I do have a prepared statement. I realize I only have 5 minutes, and it is in fact simply a statement for consideration. So again, I thank you. I believe that Bexley Schools is going down the path of teaching critical race theory. I believe this to be divisive and damaging to children. I want to be sure to have my voice heard, as I'm certain many others stay silent, fearful to raise opposition. I did have a very recent and productive conversation with Superintendent Dr. Good regarding Bexley's race education platform. He directed me to the school board, advising that it would have been under your direction. Therefore, I'm asking for transparency, that the school board publicly post a written direction that they gave Bexley Schools, both administration and staff, regarding making changes to become an anti-racist school. In addition, I'm asking that the board disclose the vetting process of this formal direction. Involved entities, viewpoints that collaborated with and/or reviewed the proposals, what professional organizations, if any, approved of the curriculum parameters prior to implementation, along with any research that was utilized. Finally, what process or processes were put in place to evaluate the implementation of this program regarding the impact to both teachers and students either positive or negative, that can be academically reviewed. In other words, data-driven. Moving forward from this, the next step will be to see how the school system took your guidance and translated it to actual presentment to students. Again, for transparency, providing this process to the public, providing access to the professional development presented to administration, teachers, and students, as well as the actual lesson plan curriculum changes that have occurred or are occurring under board direction. That concludes my statement. I would just like to add one other quick note, and that was to the beginning of the meeting in which it was indicated that Ray and Associates has been super responsive to citizens regarding questions. I have submitted an email to Ray and Associates and asked for a written response, in which he still, as of yet, has not responded. This should be boilerplate. It involves the very reason that Bexley chose Ray and Associates in regards to equity and other items that they very specifically, and in fact, the school board covered that in a PowerPoint presentation. And so I would just like to offer that as a note to my experience with that. Thank you again very much for the opportunity to speak.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your participation.
Hey, Marley, what was Mr. Is it Ersham? What's his address?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Could you tell us that for our record? Thank you.
Did he hang up?
It
Nope,
may,
nope, I'm still here. It looked like it muted me for a second. My address is 795 Chelsea.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And how do you spell your last name? Because it shows up and then it flashes away.
Sure, it's E as in Edward, H as in Henry, R as in Robert, S as in Sam, A as in Apple, M as in Mary.
I missed the A. Thank you.
again, thank you for your participation tonight. So we are moving on to other matters as may properly come before the board. I do not have any additional matters for that section tonight, which means that we will be moving into executive session. And I need there we go. So can I please have a motion to move into executive session under Ohio Revised Code 121.22. And the reason for our executive session tonight is to consider items with respect to a public employee for appointment or employment, as well as for preparing, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with employees concerning their compensation and other terms of their or conditions of their employment. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mouthful.
I was waiting for what you wanted.
That was the motion I needed. Thank you. So that's the motion in a second. I think Mr. Smith, will you please call the roll for that?
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes, or here.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Barno,
It's been a little bit.
Here or yes, or whatever I need to say, yes.
Ms. Minio,
Yes.
Ms. Powers,
Yes.
Ms. Snowden.
Yes, thank you. All right. So for our board members, if you could please move on to the platform that allows us to have executive session. For our public who are viewing, you will just see an executive session sign up. I don't anticipate any decisions to be made coming out of that or any votes, but I can't rule it out. So we will leave the meeting open. We will come in and have a proper dismissal of the meeting once we've completed with executive session. So thank you all for your attention, and I will see you on the executive session platform shortly. Thanks.
Thanks.
Kyle, can you hear us? No.
Yeah.
Hi. All right, so can I have, it is 10 o'clock. Can I have a motion to adjourn our regular scheduled board meeting of April 6, 2021?
So moved. Second.
That was Victoria as a motion and Michelle as second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Mr. Barno's over there. Aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.